actually are. Brian Schrader's on. Hey, there's Brian.
Yeah, if you're ever driving somewhere and you need to know how far it is, let me know, and I'll Google Maps it for you. That's a service I offer for free.
Google Maps it? Google Maps it.
Is that a verb?
Yeah.
To Google Map?
To Google Map. Okay, we are up and we are
running. Chesterfield like it's a long way away. It's right there.
Hey, there's a close up of your noggin. Hey.
I was looking at the map there.
If you're just joining us, Brian and I are talking about how long it's going to take my family and I to drive from Denver to Missouri tomorrow. And
Chesterfield.
Apparently, we're going to have plenty of content to update people on. I haven't hit record yet, but if you're watching the live stream, you're going to probably see our kids pop in and out of here, so that should be enjoyable.
I threatened my kids.
I threatened mine too, but that doesn't mean anything. They don't believe me. All right,
I can't hear myself. I can hear myself now. I don't know if that's the gram.
Could be the gram, yeah.
Do you have where you turn? Is yours?
The gram was on.
You need to turn your sound off.
Okay, I turned the gram down.
It's as far. If anyone knows and has an answer to this question, tweet at us and tell us why you can't fully mute the gram. You can only turn it down really low, because that's stupid.
We'd love to hear from you, people. We'd love to hear from you.
Why can't I mute Instagram when recording?
All right, let's get this going so we can watch soccer.
How to fix the no sound problem on the app when you're viewing a video. How to record silent Instagram videos. Why don't have Instagram's mute feature? Why don't I have Instagram's mute feature? That means nothing. All right, I guess we should talk about sports.
Here we go.
Hello.
Oh,
sorry.
That right there, everybody, is your co-host Brian Schrader chiming in with a nice cold LaCroix. What flavor you got there, buddy?
Tangerine
LaCroix. This is Sports Nerds, folks. If you haven't heard us before, we hope you enjoy your experience over the next few minutes here. Brian, I'm not sure how long it's going to take us today. I know both you and I would like to partake in some soccer match viewing in a little bit. We have England and Denmark. Is that correct?
No. Aren't they playing Colombia?
No, Colombia.
Am I wrong?
No, you're right. It's Colombia. That's what it is. See, we're sports nerds, and clearly we know exactly what we're talking about. So, consider we're probably going to keep this episode relatively short. Let's jump right into the ways for people to follow us if they want more than just this wonderful video and audio podcast. Folks, you can follow us on all your favorite social medias. We're on Instagram at sports.nerds. We're on Facebook, fb.me/sportsnerds, and we're on Twitter at _sportsnerds. You can also follow us on YouTube. We actually suggest that you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And the best way to access that is to just go to our Facebook page and you go to the left-hand side and you'll see a YouTube tab and click on that. And that will take you where you need to go. Follow us, engage with us. I think we're fun, right, Brian? We're enjoyable people. We try.
I agree, but it sounds bad. That's like being like, I think I'm really funny.
Yeah.
Usually when someone says that, they're not very funny.
Yeah, nobody ever says that about me. So by, I guess, me affirming my funniness, that just means I'm not a funny person.
Yeah. We're funny. We're fun. We're fun. We're fun people.
We are fun people. Oh, look at that. We have one of my wonderful friends from St. Louis watching us live. Chris Snyder, if you can hear us, how long is it going to take me to drive to Chesterfield, Missouri? Here we go. Let's see if you can't get us an answer up on the Instagram.
11 hours and 59 minutes plus $7 in tolls.
He drives really fast, though, so I'm going to like his assessment for sure. And then Wendy Mercado is also watching. Hey, Wendy. She's part of the Sports Nerds marketing team. She's a new member of our social media strategy conglomerate that's going to destroy some social medias coming up. All right, let's jump right into
the Dunning-Kruger effect.
No, tell me what it is.
The Dunning-Kruger effect is this idea that people think they're smarter than they are, right? Like they self-assess their cognitive ability as higher than it actually is. I think that there's a driving version of that. Do you know what I mean?
That is very true. I tend to.
Where you're like, oh, I can get there, and I can get there in 9 hours. No, you can't.
I definitely.
You're not a better driver than Google Maps is telling you how long it's going to be there. You have 2 little kids. It's 11 hours and 59 minutes. You're not beating that. You've got a Dunning-Kruger driving effect situation happening here. And you know what? I have a buddy who has this syndrome too. The primary symptom that's exhibited by people who have Dunning-Kruger driving effect that I've just made up is you're late to shit. Right? Oh, it only takes 45 minutes to get there. No, it's an hour and 15 minutes. You're just a half an hour late.
That's basically what's going to happen.
That's exactly what's going to happen.
Chris says that the beer is on ice, so the beer is going to be really cool.
Yeah, it's gonna, or rewarmed back up.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that ice could be melted by then.
Oh, keep adding the ice.
So is your computer restarted there? You're up.
The other one restarted. We're going. Doesn't even matter.
Well, today I wanted to talk about nationalism in sports, and we'll get to that.
But
I know
we do that.
Yeah, I figured you wanted to talk about this.
You have to, right?
I should eat some crow, right? I should eat a little bit of crow.
Crow? I mean,
I'm going to eat some crow. Okay, LeBron is going to the Lakers. I can no longer defend LeBron. I can't do it anymore. I can't. I think I'm no longer a LeBron liker. I am a LeBron hater. And for you, this is just reaffirming your assessment, your evaluation of King James.
I don't even hate LeBron. I just don't get LeBron people. I couldn't figure out a way to word the tweet right, but I was just in my mind picturing the dude who, however many years ago, when LeBron left the first time, the decision and all that, I'm taking my talents to South Beach, was so mad that he burned his LeBron jersey. And then a couple years later, LeBron comes back and he bought a new LeBron jersey, and now he has to burn his LeBron jersey again.
Is he actually going to do it? I'd like to see that guy.
You've devastated that guy. You've taken years off his life. That poor guy. He's buying jerseys. He's burning jerseys. He's happy. He's sad. He's happy. It's terrible.
And it's not like Cleveland is a destination. So
I really thought about it as LeBron was trying to figure out what is the best way I can not lose to the Warriors in the finals, and moving to the Western Conference does that, right? There's no chance he loses to the Warriors in the finals next year. So in that sense, it's pretty strategic. My brain has just been log jammed with freaking LeBron jokes ever since this shit has happened. I've tweeted you some of them.
Yeah.
My favorite one is there's some tweet that's like the Lakers and Magic Johnson are going to try and sign D Wade and Chris Bosh. So you're leaving Cleveland to go back to Miami, where you're trying, or go back to go to LA, where they're trying to recreate a Miami team that you left because they couldn't win in the finals. And then the Warriors get Boogie Cousins. I know he has an Achilles injury and he won't be back till later, but I think the Warriors are going to be better than they were last year.
I'm over the NBA.
Bold prediction in June. I don't think the Lakers make the Western Conference Finals. I think they lose in the first round of the playoffs.
I think you're probably right there. I would jump on board with that prediction. I'm over the NBA. I think I'm done. I think this is
done with the NBA. You're quitting the NBA. LeBron has broken the NBA.
I loved the NBA so much until this week, and actually until the last couple of days. The Boogie Cousins thing might have actually been the nail in the coffin for me. If
Boogie Cousins is available for $5 million, why did the Lakers not get him? I know he's coming back from an injury, and there's a question mark about how long it's going to take. But I don't think there's really a question mark about what he's going to look like. Boogie Cousins is a freak. If there's a question mark about DeMarcus Cousins, it's only that he played with Anthony Davis, and weirdly that matchup did not sort of bear fruit the way that I think, at least the way I thought it would.
Yeah, I'm very shocked by that. I thought that something positive would come from that, and it certainly didn't. Apparently having Rajon Rondo on the squad didn't do anything.
Well, and then even the stuff about Rajon, they're saying that basically he's going to compete with that dude whose dad yells all the time, whose sons weren't good enough to play in Turkey. What the hell's that guy's name?
LeVar Ball.
Oh, LeVar Ball. Yeah. No, but Lonzo is the player, right?
Lonzo is
Rajon Rondo is going to compete with Lonzo for a starting job. Boy, the winner of that competition, you're still going to have a point guard who can't shoot in the Western Conference.
I know.
I think I got booted from the Gram.
You did.
I'm back. Yeah, I'll send another request. The Gram didn't like what I was saying about LeBron.
Apparently, well, by the Graham, you mean me. You're correct. I didn't.
Oh, did you boot me for that? You boot me for my
I can. It's almost like
heretical
what's that
comments
show?
about LeBron
Around the Horn.
Around the Horn. Yeah, I've been muted.
Ask yourself to join back in, and I won't allow it.
I still have a soft spot in my heart for that show because I like Max Kellerman so much. I mean, I'd rather hear him talk about boxing. But...
He's a boxing aficionado. He knows everything. All right. Hey, we are down to our last 15 minutes before the match starts. So let's jump into our topic du jour, which is based around this one particular article that I discovered last week that we didn't get to from Al Jazeera. Folks, if you hate Al Jazeera, I understand. But let me remind you that Al Jazeera is the one news outlet that broke the Peyton Manning story, basically saying that Peyton Manning has used performance-enhancing drugs. And not too many weeks ago, what would you call that? He gave like a statement that
I didn't not
do it. Yeah, so it's kind of odd that story is getting no traction here in the United States.
Quadruple negative.
Yes. Okay. I think it made it sound like there was a good chance that what was I trying to say? He was going to try to sue Al Jazeera, and then apparently one of his lawyers was like, "Hey, settle down there. Let's not sue because we're going to lose this one." But anyhow, let's talk about Al Jazeera, the CNN, Fox News, and MSNBC of the Arab world. This article, what the Kremlin did while Russians were watching the World Cup. And basically what it does, Brian, is it just kind of summarizes many of the political decisions that have been going on in Moscow for the last 3 weeks as we've been watching the World Cup, with the argument that, people are in celebration. The news media is kind of skewing all of the negative material that's happening, the negative activities, in order to shed all of this positive light on the World Cup happening in that country. And so that's where our starting point is today, but I know we want to have a larger conversation about nationalism and sports. And so I'm going to let you take over there. I feel like I've been talking enough. And why don't you go ahead? What's your read on this? What's your read on the topic as a whole?
Yeah, no, it's really interesting. I mean, this article basically makes the argument that the World Cup and all the sort of fervor and the influx of people and all the, kind of partying and stuff was used as both kind of a pretext for and also a cover for passing a bunch of, kind of stricter security regulations, like cracking down on Antifa and other sort of, air quotes, terrorist groups, what they would label terrorist groups, but, basically just kind of strengthening the security apparatus of Russia. But like the important argument here is that it's intricately linked to intimately linked, I think is what I was trying to say, to the World Cup, right? Both it's an excuse to make this happen, and also people probably aren't paying all that much attention. They're not gonna, kind of react as negatively because the World Cup is there. So I think that's very interesting. I mean, there's definitely an element of nationalism to that, but the World Cup gives us, a sort of foray into nationalism in sports for reasons kind of above and beyond this Al Jazeera article. I had a thought the other day. I don't know if this is. I think it's quasi on topic. If you don't want to talk about it, we don't have to. When you watch all these World Cup fans who go out, they travel from their home countries to go and see their teams. It's probably a huge financial investment. It's a huge time investment. They're clearly very emotionally invested. And you watch these people kind of sing their national anthems, and they're really proud, right? There is this idea of nationalism, like, yeah, I really want to go out there and support my country. It's very weird to kind of contrast that with the conversations about the national anthem, that we've had on this podcast and that we have had culturally in the United States for, what seems like a decade, but, basically the last year and a half or whatever. That isn't that kind of what the national anthem is supposed to be, right? It's supposed to be sort of like I'm proud of my country. On a world stage, they're doing something cool, and I'm proud of it. And it doesn't strike me as sort of icky or whatever. It doesn't seem overtly political. It doesn't seem like it's being, weaponized. I see it as different than the way that we, kind of talk about and think about the national anthem in the United States, which is not to say that all the sort of nationalism that surrounds sports is good, or that it's not used in messed up ways. But the contrast was really striking to me. I don't know. Did you notice that?
Yeah, no, it is. And I think that's the topic that I really wanted to discuss today is why that nationalism that we've been seeing over the last 3 weeks in particular just doesn't match up with what we experience here in the United States. And I wonder if it has something to do with how we frame things as patriotic here and patriotism as opposed to nationalism. I wonder, at least in my kind of evaluation of it all, patriotism seems to be this thing that is above criticism, whereas nationalism is not so much a connection to one's state or one's government, but really to the people that make up the nation. There's more perhaps fluidity or progressiveness and all of that, because obviously in watching soccer over the last few weeks, I definitely get the feeling that there's a lot of nationalism, especially as you watch, people go to Russia to watch these games, or you watch live shots from various cities around the world, that they're connected to their country through their team. And it's not like they're above criticism if it were to come to that. And look at the sadness on the faces when these teams lose. But here in the United States, there is something, because we tie it to patriotism and love of the flag as opposed to love of one's country. If that makes sense, like all of this is just kind of these emotional connections we have to symbols, and the symbols for these countries are not a flag necessarily, or it's like a team, right? An identity or a unification and all that. And this here in the United States, it's a different animal. It's a totally different animal.
Yeah. I saw this meme on Facebook. I think it's like the second time. I'll try not to do this on the podcast a lot, to like find hilarious memes and think that they're making important political points. But this one kind of is. And it was this meme that says things that you can do at the same time. And on the left, it's got an arrow pointing to support American troops, care about American children, and care about your country. On the right, it says care about refugees and asylum seekers, care about refugee children, and care about world issues, right? But the point that it's trying to make is that nationalism, right, or patriotism, I know that you're kind of trying to parse those two things, whichever one you would code as more explicitly sort of a political measuring stick or a political litmus test, is one that says those are exclusive, right? That to be a patriot means that you adhere to a specific political ideology. And I think the point that we're trying to make is that what we see on display from other countries, at least maybe not every single country, but what kind of appears to be on display at the World Cup, which it's notable that the US isn't there, right, is a bunch of people who are saying, yeah, we support our country despite maybe political differences that we have, right? That you can both be excited for your country to be represented at a really cool event that only happens every couple of years, every 4 years, right? And you can be in support of your country, but that it doesn't have to be a political referendum. Right. And I don't know. It reminds me more of like what I grew up with, where it was, how patriotic you were wasn't a dick measuring contest. It wasn't a competition, and it didn't have to be political. Shout out to Patrick who shared that meme.
I don't understand why it is that we're so incapable of having or positioning ourselves as fans in that way. Even in, like, I guess I don't even see nationalism, love of country through sports here in the United States at the same level as we have around the world. Like, I mean, there would be watch parties, of course, for the U.S. men's national team had they made the World Cup, but would you see it at the scale that you get with, those live shots of Germany or France or even Russia when their teams are winning? I mean, it's just, I wonder, do we have too many options here? This is something we were talking about yesterday in class, is the individualization and the consumerism of the United States this thing that makes it so much more difficult for us to have a shared unification or a unity around sports when it comes to a national team? Does that question make sense to you, I guess? Because I can rephrase it.
No, that makes sense. Yeah. No, that makes sense.
We have all different ways that we can form our identities. We have all kinds of different ways that we can, connect to and purchase team garb, memorabilia, and really based on the kind of season of the year. But with soccer, especially in these countries, like that is the one defining moment every 4 years that a nation can really get on board with it, and we just don't care. I would say even the Olympics, right? And I know that Andy Billings and Butterworth they've written a lot about the Olympics and nationalism and all of that. But I think the scale of Americanism and patriotism that we get here in the United States with the Olympics just pales in comparison just to what we've seen this last month in the World Cup. It's not even close. I mean, it's like you're not seeing people painting their faces and hugging strangers over the U.S. women's gymnastics team's gold medal performance.
Yeah, it may be. There's something about soccer and something about the World Cup that you're right makes it totally different, because I think the similarities, right, the comparisons that we can draw between the World Cup and the Olympics are, it's sort of international. Most, if not all, countries participate. It's not really about winning and losing. It's more about kind of the spirit of sportsmanship or sportspersonship, and kind of the value of competition. But really, it's about us kind of coming together. It's seen as this sort of olive branch thing. Like, look, even though we have our differences economically or culturally or religiously or politically or whatever, we can all kind of get together and compete on the same playing field because we're all people. Like that ethos that is very much the world, very much the Olympics. I think you can see in the World Cup. The other thing about the World Cup that you're right about that's different. And maybe it's the U.S. is outside of it, both because our soccer team isn't that good and didn't make the World Cup, but also maybe there's this massive cultural differences, because you're right, there's something about it. The face painting is weird. They all wear the hats and the scarves, and it's got this sort of silliness to it, right? That you can be a caricature of a fan. Just everybody can kind of be the bucket man from Denver that we talked about last week. You can be really over the top, but I also get the sense that it's not hooligan-y at all, right? It's not about people who are going to go there. I mean, they're going to be really happy if their team wins and sad if their team loses, but I don't think there's a lot of going out there and picking fights and that sort of stuff. It seems very much kind of like it's a win to even be there and to get an opportunity to participate. You're not a Harry Potter person, right? But there's in the fourth Harry Potter book, I think, you basically have the Quidditch World Cup. Quidditch is the game they play in Harry Potter, which is, it's just supposed to be the World Cup. And that's where you get a really good look at the exact same thing, that, it's about people going to a place and you hang out with people who are, you're meeting. It's the nationalism is not my country's better than yours and I'm going to kick your ass. It's, I'm going to represent my team seriously, but also in a lighthearted way where we can still be friends and we can hang out and you can go and you can meet other people and talk to them. And we've seen that in the World Cup, right? Like, the Mexico team being so happy when South Korea beat Germany to lock them into the elimination, into the round of 16 or whatever. I'm using debate terminology now. Like, it's got this yay my country, but also this not at the expense of your country, right?
I know.
It's very bizarre to be like, my country's the best, but your country's cool too. Whereas a lot of times U.S. patriotism is, we're the best and you all suck.
We're definitely, I guess I would argue that U.S. patriotism is tied to exceptionalism, and kind of always has, at least since World War II. I mean, don't we think we can probably argue that just in the discourse that has surrounded our relationship with countries in the rest of the world? There's definitely an exceptionalism, the sense that we're better than everybody else. And I think that definitely feeds down into these kind of international sports events. I feel like we get that sense even when we watch the Olympics, that American exceptionalism is kind of just it's all over the conversation, the commentary that we get about these sports. When you were saying that, though, about all these countries, hugging and joining hands, and there is definitely a positive sense of competition and the good things that can come from competition in the World Cup. But I just thought about how ironic that is, considering just how sleazy FIFA is.
Yeah.
It really is. Like, it's a really, really scuzzy organization, but yet people. I think soccer just seems to be this one game that brings everybody together, because it is it's the language of the world, if you will. We're getting a little too cheesy here. I know we are, but I mean, it's true. It's even yesterday, right? I went to.
I lost.
Can you hear me? Okay.
I didn't hear what you just said. I lost you for a second. You got a weird digital sound.
Gotcha.
I don't know what it was.
It looks good on this end.
Like that part in The Matrix when Neo turns all metal when they're doing the tracing program.
I can recall that.
That's the sound I just heard. You seem to be okay.
This isn't our reality.
Code.
Right here. Yeah, this is.
There is no spoon. That movie totally holds up.
Yeah, I haven't watched it in a while.
I watched it recently.
I'd see it. But even yesterday, like going to a bar with a couple of buddies and watched the Mexico-Brazil game, and like the competitive
What time
nature.
was that?
It was at 8 a.m.
8 a.m. hitting the bar.
Yes. The competitiveness between the Mexico fans and the Brazil fans, there was still like a sense of we're at a bar at 8 o'clock in the morning, and there's something really really enjoyable about that. And I don't know, I don't want to hate on America, but it seems like we just get some things wrong. We get some things wrong. I wanted to. Do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, and I think it trickles down. It's not just the nationalism where that happens, though. I think it happens with just sort of fan culture as well. We talked about this. That the fight between the Giants fan and the Dodgers fan. Remember that got that guy basically permanently disabled or injured, whatever the right term is there. Or like I said, I'm a huge Raiders fan. I'm originally from Denver. It was oftentimes not fun to like go to Mile High wearing a bunch of Raiders stuff because I can take it if people are gonna sort of playfully give me some crap. I can handle that. But like there are points when I was like, oh, are we really gonna fight about this? I don't know you, dude. We don't really have to like. This is just a football game, right? We don't really have to punch each other or anything. This seems pretty stupid to me.
I really wish you could figure out why that is. I really wish I could figure out like the answer to these questions, because it can't just be the framing of the coverage during the World Cup that highlights these positive interrelational or interpersonal relationships that you're kind of pointing out. There's got to be something there. I mean,
it'll be interesting to see. When does it come to the U.S.? 2026 or whatever.
2026, yeah.
If it looks this on TV as it looks this year, because I'll be honest, man, it looks like a blast. It looks like everyone's having so much fun, and there have been tense moments, but it just people seem really into it and happy to be there. And I mean, there's emotional highs and lows, but and look, it's a select little bit of it that we get to see. I'm sure there are some bar fights, right? I'm sure there's some people who've had too many brewskis and too much vodka or whatever, and have thrown some punches. But generally, it just looks like a freaking blast. And I don't know if you'll get that same thing if it's here. I don't know if you'll get that, if enough of that culture will kind of come to North America in 8 years, and we'll get the. I hope so.
Do you think that this is
Toronto?
Do we just have more outlets for escapism and entertainment? Like we just have so many options that we're kind of numb to a moment like this or to an event like this, whereas the rest of the world maybe doesn't have that plethora of options. Not to say that we're better or anything like that, but there's baseball going on right now. There are other sports going on right now. There's LeBron's story, all of this stuff. Whereas for many of these countries, it sure seems like this is the biggest thing going on and the only thing that's going on. Is that wrong-headed?
No, it makes sense. I mean,
but you don't sound sold on
it. I don't know. I mean, like I'm kind of two minds of it. Like, I wonder if people are having the same reaction that I am watching this. I wasn't thinking about the podcast when I saw it, but it's when what was going on when these other countries are doing their national anthems, right? And she's like, no, it's like the same thing that we do before the swim meets, where you put your hand on your heart or whatever. And he's like, oh, okay, I know how to do that, right? And she's trying to explain, here's the action that's taking place. And I was wondering, like, if it resonates as the same thing, right? Like, you've made this point, and I think Butterworth makes this argument. Michael Butterworth, who's been on the show, who's a really prolific sports scholar, has made this argument that after the second Iraq war in Afghanistan, and then the Iraq War, that the prevalence and the centrality and the theatricality of the national anthem at U.S. sporting events really took off, right? If you go back 25 years ago, people may not remember, we didn't have the giant American flags, and in some places you didn't even have the national anthem at all, right, in some of these sporting events. But now every single one, it's this really big deal. It's much bigger. It's much more theatrical. It's much more visible. They're showing it on TV, all of that sort of stuff. But there's also a sense, too, in which it's so pervasive. It happens so everywhere that how are you supposed to kind of get into it every single time, if that makes sense? Mm-hmm. And so it doesn't really match up with what looks like this really emotional display on the part of these teams at the World Cup. So I think that's a part of it, right? I think to get back to your question, I think the question of too many outlets for whatever it is, for machismo or aggressive masculinity or nationalism or patriotism or whatever it is. Like, I think in the one sense we can sort of ignore this and not see it for what it is, or at least what it appears to be to me, because we have those other outlets. But it's also weird that I think it becomes sort of ritualized, not in the good sense, but in the, we do it sort of in a pro forma way. We're going through the motions, as opposed to kind of being emotionally invested in what it's supposed to mean. The anthem, I mean.
You know what?
I think if I listened back to that 3 minutes of words that I just said, that it meant nothing.
No, that made a lot of sense.
I know what I'm trying to say. I just don't know how to say it.
I think we're onto something here. I think there seems to be there's an irony in the connection between sports and commodification of sports in other countries around the world and our own. In particular, I'm thinking of like Europe. In these European leagues, and you and I have talked about it, they're very forthright and open about the fact that, we're going to market these players. We're going to actually put advertising on their jerseys, their uniforms, and all of this. In the United States, we tried to hide, or at least cover up some of that commodification and pretend like there's a purity to it. And I wonder if that hurts the authenticity of the game and the injection of patriotism in the American game that makes it so hard for us to really believe. Whereas there has to be something going on emotionally, viscerally, affectively with people around the world and their connection to the sport. I don't know if it's a respect for the fact that people are open about this. There's an authenticity that is kind of exuded in that. And so they're more open, or they're more kind of emotionally connected to these teams because they don't feel like it's being forced down their throat in terms of their nationalism. Whereas here in the United States, right, it just feels uncomfortable. It feels uncomfortable because it's something we don't know how to deal with. But whereas in other countries around the world, especially those European countries that we're beginning to see now in these kind of key games, they know how to handle it. They know how to process it. It's a different kind of animal. I don't know how to necessarily parse that out, really structure it into a cohesive argument, but I think there's got to be something there when it comes to that.
Yeah. It's also possible too that all the same stuff is happening and we just don't see it because we're, sort of apart from those cultures. Maybe if you're there, it is sort of bubbling under the surface and we just can't see it. So this is all based kind of on pretty superficial observation, but it definitely looks different.
It definitely looks different.
I think Occam's razor would say that, there's an explanation for why it looks different. And I think we're flirting with a good explanation.
Well, knowing that this match has started, I think we should, I think our listeners are probably going to turn to us tomorrow on the 4th of July and say, wow, we are so grateful to Sam and Brian. Doctors Jay and Schrader are here today to give us these 30 minutes. So let's leave it at 30 minutes for them. What do you say?
It's good.
You good with that?
With 30 good minutes, better than 45 minutes of crap.
30 good minutes. Everybody, tomorrow, whatever day you're listening to this, if you're watching fireworks, if you're hanging out with the family, jump onto your social medias. If you get a chance, follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. On the gram, we're at sports.nerds. That is probably our most active platform. Facebook, fb.me/sportsnerds, and then Twitter @_sportsnerds. Quick shout out to our sponsors, to Lost Highway Brewing Company. And I am wearing a Tivoli hat, so by default, I guess they're getting some free publicity.
LaCroix.
They're
not giving us any money.
They're not. All right, buddy. Congrats to LeBron.
Congrats to LeBron.
All right, we'll talk to you later.
I hope we do it again in 4 years. We can get some more. Yeah.
Do it again in 4 years. All right, see you, man. Bye. Of course, man. Kids just showed up downstairs. Okay, and
good timing.